The most critical dimension in this project is the width between the edge of your casing. That's the dimension that everything else from here up is built off of. So let's measure that. In this case, we are exactly 37 inches. So with that dimension, we'll be able to build, we'll be able to cut the header board, and we'll be able to build the stool and the bead with the correct overhangs. It's all going to come together looking nice. So we're going to go ahead and build the bead and the cap. What I have here is a piece of 1/2 inch stock. You can buy this, it's pretty expensive, so I just took some scrap and cut it on the table saw. I have cut it to the correct length. If you remember, our critical dimension was 37 inches. I have to add some for the overhangs. Now, this particular case, if you recall, that door butts up into the corner. So one corner is not going to have any overhang, it's just going to be mashed up into the corner. Now that sounds like it'll look bad, but it'll look fine. But in this case, I do have to have the overhang on the other side. So I had to add 3/8 of an inch to this. What we're going to do is run it through the router with a 1/4 inch roundover bit, and we'll run it through this way. We'll flip it over, go through the other side, and what we end up with is a nice round profile. Now, we will do the same thing for the cap. I have that piece here, except we're going to use a 3/8 inch roundover bit for it. Same procedure, same thing on this. We have an overhang. It's 1 1/4 inches on each end, but remember, one end we're not going to have any overhang because it's going to go up against the wall. So this is 38 1/4. I've got the router table set up, so we'll go ahead and run it through and see what we end up with. So now we have our bead made up. We ended up with a really nice round profile. One little point of detail on the ends, go ahead and round that off with your sanding block or some sandpaper, just to kind of take that harsh edge, just a fine little detail, but makes a big difference in how it looks. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and sand this a little bit. I'm going to put a couple of coats of primer on it and let that be setting up while we go on to something else. Okay, we're almost to the fun part, and that is putting everything together. But before we do that, we're going to take this piece of cove and we're going to cut it to fit on this header board. And once we have that done, we'll have all of our parts ready to go. We can do our final assembly, slap a couple of coats of paint on it all, and then take it upstairs and nail it in place, and we'll be done with the project. So let's take this over to the miter saw and make these cuts. Okay, what I have found in cutting anything that has a particular profile, whether it be cove or crown or anything like that, is to go ahead and make your cuts as the material would be nailed into place. And what I mean by that is this cove is going to be nailed into place in this position. So I'm going to go ahead and make my miter as it would be nailed. To do this, you can take a little piece of block and slide it in there for support. So the first piece we're going to cut is the small piece that will go on the edge of the header board. We have to watch closely because these little pieces will go flying, and I don't want to lose it. Here we go. Okay. So this piece will go on the edge, the side of the board, and we'll cut another piece that'll miter right into it. So now we'll go ahead and cut the long piece of cove. Again, we're going to place it on the table as it would be nailed into place. That makes it a little easier for me to kind of process the way to set the miter saw on the proper angle. So let's go ahead and cut that. So now what we have is a perfect miter that'll be placed on the header board just below the cap. All right, we're ready to do our final assembly. If you remember all the components of this, we start out with this piece of bead. So the bead goes in first. Then the header. Then there's a piece of cove. And finally, a cap. Our order of assembly is going to be, we're going to start with the bead. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take the header, turn it upside down so we can work and access it. And we're going to lay the bead on it, get the proper overhang on the end, and we're going to nail this into place. Once we have that, we're going to take this piece of cap and do the same procedure on the other side and nail it into place, making sure we have the proper overhang. Once that's complete, it's just a matter of placing our cove in, and what we'll do is put a bead of glue on it and then hit it with a finish nailer, and then we're done. So let's go ahead and start putting these pieces together.